I've mentioned previously that my favorite decade of music was the 1970s. I mean, all of my teen years happened in that decade. And boy, the year 1976 was killer in terms of memorable songs and albums. Over the next several minutes, I'll talk about some of the very best albums released 50 years ago. But let me first tell you that among the top singles from 76, according to Billboard, were hits like Sarah Smile by Hall & Oates. They got along back then. Wild Cherries, Play That Funky Music. The Four Seasons, December 1963. Oh, what a night. Afternoon Delight. Who can forget that one-hit wonder? And the top single of the year, not one of my faves, I'll tell you, Silly Love Songs by Wings. But let's talk about albums from that year. 1976 was the year that the USA celebrated its 200th birthday, and it was also a huge year for live albums. There were hit live releases that year from the likes of Bob Seger, Bob Dylan, Elton John, Iggy and the Stooges, Led Zeppelin, the Allman Brothers, Deep Purple, Peter Frampton, of course, and Paul McCartney, his aforementioned post-Beatles band, that would be Wings. I often don't include live albums in my favorites of the year list, but a few of those that I mentioned were massive ones, and you have to consider those. So will they make my list? You'll see. There were lots of damn good debut albums released in 1976 also, from the likes of Blondie, Boston, Crocus, The Runaways, Graham Parker and the Rumor, and Stars, plus the first ever international release from ACDC and the major label debut from the late, great Warren Zevon. There were so many great albums released in 1976 that a bunch of memorable ones did not crack my top 10. As you can see here, there were several big ones that didn't even land in my top 25, from legends including Jeff Beck, Black Sabbath, Chicago, the Doobie Brothers, Genesis, Kansas, Lou Reed, Joni Mitchell, and ZZ Top. Making it into my honorable mention area were solid albums like Bad Company's Run with the Pack, Led Zeppelin's Presence, the debut from the Ramones, Bob Seger's Night Moves, and Thin Lizzy's Jailbreak, which, by the way, includes one of my all-time favorite tunes, The Boys Are Back in Town. Check out albums numbers 11 through 15 on my list from 1976. Classics like Billy Joel's Turnstile, Steve Miller's Fly Like an Eagle, Electric Light Orchestra's A New World Record, Bowie's Station to Station, and Wings Over America. Opening track on that one, Maybe I'm Amazed, is another one of my all-time favorite tunes. Oh, I never include greatest hits releases in my favorites from a particular year, but I will mention that it was early 1976 that the Eagles released their greatest hits, 1971 to 75, which very recently was certified by the record industry at 40 times platinum, meaning sales of more than 40 million units. It remains the best-selling album of all time. Don Henley, Glenn Frey and Company released a pretty legendary studio album later in 1976, and you can bet that one will check in pretty high on my list. Okay, let's get to it. My personal top 10 favorite albums released in 1976. The one at number 10 is an album that I don't personally own. The only one of the top 10 that I don't have. But man, I would hear it from my scores of music-loving friends if I didn't include Stevie Wonder's double LP masterpiece, Songs in the Key of Life. I Wish, Sir Duke, and Isn't She Lovely? All big hits from that one. At number 9, one that dropped 11 days before I saw my first ever concert, and it was by the band in question. The show was Kiss, and the album was Destroyer, with tunes including Detroit Rock City, Beth, God of Thunder, and Shout It Out Loud. Yeah, I was a proud member of the Kiss Army. 8th on my list is, one from another one of my favorite bands from the 1970s and 80s, and they'll be back on tour on the road this summer with a new drummer. My favorite Canadian rock trio, Rush, and their album 2112, with the entire side one being the 20-minute 7-part title song, Epic. And yes, I will be seeing them in August in Philly. In the 7th spot, another classic, the self-titled debut from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. This one right here. Now, I didn't discover this album or band until a year or so later, but man, still today, I love hearing songs from that one, including Breakdown, Anything That's Rock and Roll, and of course, American Girl. I just saw a pretty good tribute band, a Tom Petty tribute band last week called The Broken Hearts. At number 6, oh man, I wore this one out. An album with memorable songs like Tie Your Mother Down and, of course, Somebody to Love. I'm talking about Queen's A Day at the Races. So glad that I got to see Queen live twice the following year. Nobody commanded a stage like the late, great Freddie Mercury. Okay, on to my top 5. And in the 5th spot, a big one from these guys, Aerosmith, their 4th album called Rocks. And boy, it did rock. Terrific songs, including Back in the Saddle, Sick as a Dog, and Last Child. Number 4 on my list of favorite albums of 1976. Yeah, the double live album that I think everybody owned in the late 1970s, released in mid-January of 76. Frampton Comes Alive. It spent 10 weeks at number 1. It sold over 8 million units in 1976 alone, the year's top-selling record, of course, and one of the very best-selling live albums of all time. ACDC released a couple of albums in their native Australia in 1975, but it wasn't until May of 76 that High Voltage, with a slightly revised song list, was released internationally. And I was blown away when I first heard this one. It's still a favorite to listen to today, with rockers like TNT, It's a Long Way to the Top. The album High Voltage is my 3rd favorite from 1976. Well, when I began assembling my list of favorites from 1976, I knew right away which 2 would be right at the top. Both of these albums are rarities in that there's not a single bad song on either of them. I put the debut album from Boston, this one right here, with songs like Long Time, More Than a Feeling, and Peace of Mind in the 2nd slot. And then at number 1, of course, it is the Eagles, Hotel California. My God, this is so good. Their first one with Joe Walsh on board and yielding hits like the title song, plus New Kid in Town and Life in the Fast Lane. Who doesn't love this one? Come on. All right, there it is on the screen. My list, 50 years later, my top 10 and a bunch of other favorites from the year 1976. Freeze that picture right there. Study the list of albums that came out. What a memorable year. See if you agree with my choices. I will gladly still listen to any and all of these albums this year and for years to come. Thanks for watching and keep rocking.